Jaram, welcome, 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 welcome. It's very nice to have you
Hi.
back. No, two things. One, you're back in civilization. Two, you're in conversation with me. These days, very difficult to get you guys. Yeah, you're all over the place. Okay. Anyway, we
Nice.
go a very, very long way back, Jaram, and it's really lovely how the whole, relationship is, sustained
Mhm.
so beautifully so long. So just to give you a brief about what we are doing, this is episode 8 of the
Okay.
Excellence Speak series. So we have
Mhm.
had various people, really great stalwarts in different fields who have been speaking with us. And just to
Mhm.
create a little bit of positivity in this whole pandemic issue and all of that, telling them there's so much more to do here, and let's get on to doing that. So that's the idea. So welcome to Excellence Speak series episode 8.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, Uni, to be on your shows. Yep.
Yeah, so let's go straight away into a few queries that I have for you that we can get our people who are seeing these videos to really understand where we all come from. Okay, so
Mhm.
actually your experience with operations, with serious operations and training is quite remarkable, and I'm very proud whenever I talk about you in various forums. Okay.
I'm proud of you too.
And you're still in an operational zone. So my first question is about how are the armed forces coping with this pandemic while also being involved in the security requirements of the country?
Uh, to put it in a very simple and straight sense, absolutely simple and straight sense, for the armed forces, it's the country first and the pandemic second. That's the bottom line.
Wow,
Okay.
great.
But just to, I say again, it's the country first and the pandemic second. So, with, I mean, that's, I think, should say it all. But still, to elaborate a little bit, in the armed forces, we are always taught uh, to write an aim for anything, whether it's a lesson plan, whether it's an operation, whether it's a task, whatever. What's the aim? And they say aim should be singular in nature, and so therefore it should not be qualifying.
Yeah,
So, like I said, it's the country first and pandemic second. So it's not qualified.
yeah. No, my
In
question
this,
also is related to that actually, in the sense, see, when national crisis happens,
Mhm.
the army is called in. There's much about, even though there is a security situation in any of those fields, the army gets involved in different things. Okay, army, air force, navy, whatever that might be. Okay, so how do you kind of, play the right note? Is what I'm asking.
You see, uh, like I said earlier, when your aim is singular, firstly you don't lose focus on your primary task. That is, you put your checks and balances in place to deal with the secondary eventuality. In the sense, your primary focus is the country. Okay, now your secondary focus is on the pandemic. So the tasks are very clear. It's and usually like even in a weapon system, when you sight a weapon, you have a primary arc and you have a secondary arc, where the primary arc and the secondary arc at times overlap of the subsequent weapon. So you don't lose. Yeah, our basic duty is to protect the nation. All said, whether it's a pandemic, whether one of your guys is suffering from the pandemic, or whether he's in ICU, he's on ventilator, it matters. But there are people to take care of it. There are checks and balances for it. So therefore, you don't lose sight.
You know what? I'm glad you brought up this, the primary arc, the secondary arc, and all that, because those are things that I learned from you in the NSG training center. So I'm glad you brought up. That's where this whole beautiful relationship started. So training, that's what. So training is such an important part of the armed forces, right? And in fact,
Yep.
the com training is something that we use in the Air Force so much, And I think that is important to retain the edge of operational excellence, right? So, what I mean, since you've been in training so long, what do you do to retain this edge and personnel of the armed forces? What do you do?
Uh, I think it's you're talking about continuity in training, and you know which is basically when we in the armed forces train, you are very well aware uh, that we concentrate a lot on progressive training. Fine. So training is progressive in the sense there is an end in sight. And all the end that is in sight ends with a practical demonstration, application, or a rehearsal whatsoever. It depends on what circumstances you are in. Uh, the answer to your question is in your question itself, wherein you say uh, training events are planned like in the sense your question was um,
How do you reach
continuity
the
is so
age?
important to retain the edge of an operation. Continuity training is so important. So it's that continuity training which is actually it speaks for itself. But again, going into the nitty gritties, uh, as far as the armed forces are concerned, all our training events are planned a year in advance. I'm quite sure the corporate world also works in a similar manner. Okay. So what we do is we brainstorm issues. We have war games, and those are held with all the stakeholders who are present. Fine. It may be the engineers, it may be the commandos, it may be the air defense, it may be the infantry, it may be the artillery. Each and every stakeholder is present. Okay. This helps the senior commanders, the senior leaders in an organization. They go through that decision making process. So pros and cons are discussed. The expertise of each person in his field, and and his actions to somebody's reactions and counteractions, they're all thrashed nice and proper. And if there are any anomalies when you're doing those brainstorming and wargaming, those anomalies are removed. The stakeholder and all the stakeholders ensure that there's a seamless integration of manpower and resources at the time when you are, you know, uh, pressing everything into thing, and the focus is to win a war or a battle. So you need to be absolutely seamless in your thought process. The decision maker knows what is the eventuality. Everybody else knows how to react to various contingencies that may occur, because your enemy is also not a foolish guy. Your competitor is also not a foolish guy. He also brainstorms the way you do. So it is only wit that will ultimately win. And wit of, I'm telling you, wit of those junior leaders. Okay, in the armed forces, you may say the junior commissioned officers, you may see the young captains, the majors, and so on and so forth. In the corporate world, you'll see that the man on ground, if it is a marketing force, you'll see the guy who's doing a door-to-door sale, if a guy who's doing a sale in a shop, or a digital marketing platform, whoever is that punch guy on the ground, he's making the difference. And you brainstorm and all.
You brought in a hell of a lot of things. I'm glad you brought the corporate connect to the whole thing, because actually we've worked together in some of these programs that we've done together, and I think it's very important for them to understand the seamless, working together, collaboration, mission being the objective. I think these are all things that we have tried to inculcate using a military scenario, explaining to them that how it works on the ground when you're at war, and how it needs to be applied to a corporate setting. That's very nice. In fact, one of the guys who I had worked with, in corporate, one of these guys called up the other day and asked me, "Hey, listen, yaar, is there some place where we can get people to train? Like, for example, rope climbing." Okay, he's saying in pandemic situations, okay, to get them to, realize what all they should do, what all they shouldn't do, and stuff like that. So I was trying to explain to him that rope climbing doesn't come, okay, today you start climbing and you climb. No, it has a hell of a lot of training that goes on, so that guy becomes fit enough and strong enough to climb a rope. How it happens in energy training center.
Yeah, progressive training.
Absolutely. So I had this question to you. I mean, we have seen this in various things here. When you were here, when the floods happened, and when the Varda Puyal happened, and all of that. What do you think that the general public, okay, should have as qualities that needs to be inculcated to handle such calamities, whether it be pandemics or whether it be natural disasters? What do you think the general public should have?
See, I was there in Chennai when the floods happened in 2015. There were two major hospitals which faced the brunt. There were resources that were distributed across the across you say across the city. Some got it, some didn't get it, some were crying for mercy. So, but uh, from what my experience went in that time, and also during the recent floods in Karnataka, in North Karnataka, in Belgaum, where again I was very actively involved in the planning and rescue operations, got all the resources together. I realized that the people who were left without resources and the people who had not exactly handled certain situations, like I mean situations, but the people who had some kind of a, you know, a sporting kind of a background or a very active attitude. Hey chalo, let's go trekking. Hey chalo, let's go on a picnic. Hey, let's you know, go on an NCC hike, or let's go join the Bharat Scouts and Guides. Those are the guys who were within an organization, like a particular hospital where I went to. I will not name it, but where the calamity was, they did not receive resources. But the guys who acted were the husbands of the nurses and some of the HR staff who were there. And like they were people who are working in the Port Trust of India and organizations like that, who were in their heydays maybe wrestlers and, you know, swimmers and those kind of things, and they were there. So the moment the help got to them, they were there to give a helping hand, carry the wounded, carry the water bottles up to the ninth floor, carry food. They were all over the place. It was not the hospitals, but it was those people who were exposed to a certain amount of reflex action, sports and things like that. So having said that, you know, training to handle various calamities should be included at the elementary school level and must be a graduated learning process as one grows up. This I have seen when I had gone to the US Marine Corps. The defense attaché, a brigadier from the Indian Army, asked me, he says, Jairam, whether you learn something here at the Marine Corps or not, please go and visit the elementary school and see what the children are taught regarding, you know, community upkeep, community responsibility, you know, disaster responses. It's a progressive thing that is taught from the school level. As you come to high school, then you're taught a few more things. As you go to graduation, you're taught a few more things. So I think as a nation, as a people, we must, as our own organization, wherever we are, it may be a small school, it may be a shop, you may have a business establishment. We all must take on responsibility of educating our staff that, you know, look, these things can happen. Now, the armed forces are trained to handle calamities and pandemics. Now you say, oh, the coronavirus is just new. Well, how to handle a pandemic? Well, it's a part of the learning objectives in the medical corps, you know, the AMC, we say, who then lay down the SOPs, the standard operating procedures and broad guideline once a breakdown occurs. Now, this I got to know because my resident medical officer, when the pandemic broke out, she was discussing with another co-medical officer. He said, these things we learned in medical school about pandemics and how to handle them, and here it is staring right in our face. So you have it. They were trained earlier. They were familiar with those nomenclature like quarantining and hand washing and, you know, your isolation and ventilators. They knew all that. They knew the stages of the pandemic.
Yeah, actually, that NBC is something that we are all trained for. No, the nuclear, biological, chemical warfare that is part of our learning. So we had to know how to handle these things, because any other, you know, hostile country could do the same thing with us, right? So even those discussions are still happening. But you know what? The last you know, little thing that you spoke about, you covered hell of a lot of aspects, including the fact that we are from the NCC and we have a sporting background. You know, that exactly was seen in the you know, that Chennai floods, where the army, you know, the dinghies were reaching and the people were not able to climb on board because they were not fit enough. You know, something that, you know, struck so vividly in my mind, saying that, heck, there is an opportunity for them to be saved and they're not able to climb onto the boat. You know, it's I mean, so I think it's a very, very important thing for us to include. In fact, I'm glad this friend of mine brought up this aspect of people getting trained for a situation like a pandemic or a flood or whatever that is, and that translates.
Yeah, I had a point with regard to that.
Yeah.
You see, further to whatever I said about how the army trains. Parents must inculcate in their children, firstly, sports activity for agility, swimming for an eventuality, okay, and remove all forms of fear, gradually exposing them to the vagaries of life through maybe audio, video, visual means, personal experiences, and other innovative confidence building measures. Now, it may sound big, but a simple message from a father to his daughter or a son, okay, of some video popping up somewhere about some child in an eventuality because he or she learned swimming, was able to swim to the shore, and there's that whole video about it. He found it, he sent it. Now there's a subtle message that he's sending to the child. The child will not listen to Papa, come off it. These things don't occur. But in real life, but when he sends a subtle video message or something like that, it's there in the subliminal mind, and a child would want to pick up swimming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, similarly, you have maybe a good sportsman and how he trained. He sends a small short story to this child, and
Yeah.
he or she learns. So the parents also should have such objectives in their mind and expose the children accordingly.
But that's one thing that probably we need to bring into, these recent, nuclear families. Like, I mean, even I remember when Pranav was young, no, I used to take him and, help him climb a tree. I mean, he might have not become a, expert at climbing trees, but the fear of, getting onto a tree and
Yes, exactly.
things are so.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. So that's what I want to ask you as the last question, Jairam. We all have been interacting with the younger generation. I mean, you had your experiences with the NCC, and I was, part of this whole Excel group of companies doing programs for the youngsters. They are our future, right? Now, if they have to be valuable citizens of the India or the world or wherever they're going to be, what qualities do you think that they should have? We always talk about the OLQs and army, but I'm asking more as a generic question. What do you think these qualities that they should instill, imbibe, that will really make them a genuine, very valuable citizen?
Yeah, I mean, apart from the officer-like qualities, the OLQ that you mentioned about, I would like to say this to your question, that the world, as we all know, is shrinking very rapidly, in the face of digitization, artificial intelligence, and the inherent social media platforms like the one we are on at this particular moment. So the world is shrinking and is almost shrunk.
Yeah.
Okay. At the same time, young adults must not neglect the good practices of the past, meaning our ancestors, right? Like you and me, our kids, and our grandfathers, like that.
Yeah.
While one is professionally abreast and digitally savvy, one would fall, one would fail and fall early by neglecting a healthy lifestyle that were followed by our ancestors. Now, I see a whole lot of youngsters sitting long time on their chairs, looking at the computer, constantly, glaring at it, and then coming and rubbing their eyes, and then holding their backs, uh, and complaining, "I'm leaving this job. I hate the IT. I want to go back. I want to go and start teaching." You know, so uh, no, that is all because of the bad habits. So what's the solution? Here it is: early to rise. Exercise,
Yeah.
right? Eat right and in time. Balance work and family diligently, and make sure that your subordinates and bosses do it too. Meaning to say, you tell your boss, "Sir, I mean, I see that you're under a lot of stress. I mean, sorry for saying so, sir, but I think you should get rid of that, that belly fat of yours, and that's why you are having a hassle. You seem to be very low today. Seek an opportunity, tell him." When he understands, when he realizes that his health is important, and he knows that your health is also important, so he'll also feel conscious about it. He says, "Okay, let's start our day early by playing basketball in the office every morning. We'll freshen up and then come back to work."
Yeah. Hey, Jairam, I played basketball today.
I know that. That's why I said it. So I'll say again to the youngsters, you rise early, must exercise, eat right and on time. To hell with everybody else. When it's 1:30, it's eating time, have your meal, whatever it is. If you're still too busy, carry some fruits, carry some uh, good healthy food, not junk food with you. Eat it there itself. You know, when I say balance and work, you may be single, but you must mingle with your family also. That is your parents, you know, your uncles, your aunts. So that is where, you know, some you say, oh, the songs are so slow in yesteryears. That's why the people were more chillax and they were able to, you know, last a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You say Balle Balle Birmingham and your life is over. No, it doesn't work like that.
That's a good one. Actually, so
Yeah,
that's the balance. You know, we've been also in the training field. We've kind of tried to tell them the balance that they need to have in the physical, mental, and emotional space, which is
absolutely.
awesome. You know, the holistic part of you, right? So I guess so. We are doing some good work also, and I'm glad that Jairam, we've been able to associate before, and we are able to associate now and later. I'm sure. So I'm glad that you were part of this whole thing. Any other message you would like to say? Anything that in general we would like to before we close?
Yes, I mean, for everybody who's had the opportunity uh, to get into NCC on scouts and guides and other thing, encourage your kids to do it. For those kids who say, no, no, my school, my college does not have NCC, you have an opportunity to go to another institution as an external candidate and join. In case you don't, then you join academies like Excel and other places and do some activity, and those certificates will hold you in good stead. Uh, yeah, like I was part of the NCC, but at the same time, I was also part of the Deccan Athletic Club many years ago in Karnataka.
Yeah.
So, and I still am carrying that certificate of Deccan Athletic Club. And I said, if NCC didn't work for me, Athletic Club would work, but actually both worked for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm in the army. Yeah.
Hey, super. Thank you so much, Jairam, for joining us for this excellent speak series. And I'm sure there is so much to talk to you about. Maybe we'll drag you in for an episode slightly later and probably focus on something else that you had great experience. Maybe your US Marines will experience. So let's see how that will work. Okay. Thank you very much, and all the best, Jairam, and have a great holiday during the Diwali season, the festival season, and we'll catch up with you then. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Uni. God bless you and your team.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be there. Bye.